All right, welcome along. My name is Bosh. This is Bosh's Ableton Beginner Bits. And today we're going to be taking a look at something that I think everyone will be able to use, hopefully. That's the aim of this video. So what I want to try and do is make a spring reverb out of the basic stuff that you can get in Ableton, let's say Lite or Standard Edition. Because from what I've seen, echo and convolution reverb with the springs are not included in different versions. I think echo's in Lite, but it's not in Standard. Convolution reverb's not in Lite or Standard as far as I'm aware. I've only just quickly browsed this online. So I'm going to try and make a DIY spring reverb out of the plugins that you get within Ableton. Across all versions, hopefully. So I'm just going to use delay and reverb. That's it. Now, before we get into this, I always have to tell you about buymeacoffee.com/BoshDubs. You can go there and support this channel for the price of a coffee. What is more appreciated is channel interaction. Like, share, comment, go back and watch old videos, all that business. That is what helps most in the algorithm, helps this channel grow and get to more people like you who might want to be able to use some tips like this for beginners in Ableton. So let's get into it. Now, what I must preface this by saying is it's not going to sound exactly like a proper spring reverb. I understand that completely. The same with the majority of my videos. This is just a test to try and see what you can do and how close you can get using the basic stuff that you get in like Ableton Lite, for example, something like that. So don't come at me. I know we're not going to make a real proper spring, but we're going to have a really good go at it. Now, what I'm going to start with, I've got a loop. Now, I'm going to make this a bit smaller because this loop just has rims in it. Okay, let's take the effect off for now. Let's see what the rim sounds like on its own. Very basic click. And then what I want to do is show you, I've built the effect, or I've built roughly something that's going to be like what we're making today, and I want to just show you how it sounds. Now, I will say as well, I've used echo to make this, and then I've just looked up, and echo isn't in every version, so I'm going to move to delay and try and adapt for that. But this is what it sounds like without. And then this is what it sounds like with. All right, and then if we open up. Yeah, only a slight variation to it. But that's the kind of thing we're going to try and make. Because a spring, it's kind of like a tight delay, really, like a super tight delay with a bit more ambience and reverb around it as well. So that's what we're going to try and make. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete everything on here. And we're going to start again. Now, what I'm going to try and do with this video is make it in the return effects. And then we're going to add it on as a send on the channel that we're using it on. Okay? So I'm going to leave the effect wet now completely. So you want to get this send thing here, turn it up. If you don't have that, then you need to go down to the bottom here and just make sure that your sends are selected there. So you can see what's going on. The first thing I want to do is I want to clear this filter. And we're going to use delay. So I'm going to get one delay. I'm in the wrong box, firstly. Okay, we put one delay in here. And that's how we're sounding at the moment. Now, what I want to do is press Control and G and group this, because what we're going to do, let me show you somewhere. So what we're going to try and do, this is how it works in my head, is this is a spring reverb. This is a dirty spring reverb. Let me get a different one. Okay. So this is a spring reverb. Now, this one has 3 springs. Yeah, but we're going to just do a 2-spring reverb today. That's the aim of this. So what we need to try and create is 2 springs, basically, and then them unified together in one output. Yeah, so that's kind of how I'm imagining things here. So we've got one delay. We're going to press Control and G and make it into a group. Okay, now on the group, go down to this little lines here, open it up, and you'll see that we've got like a delay channel. So that's still acting just like a normal delay. Now, in my head, we need to create 2 springs. So I'm going to make another delay in here. So I'm going to click on the delay track within the audio effect, Control and D to duplicate. And now we've got essentially 2 springs. All right. Now let's listen to each one on its own. They will be the same at the moment. Yeah? All right. So the first thing we're going to do is unsync these completely, because we're not, with a spring reverb, you're not hearing, you're just hearing like, ping, like it's ping, like it's something that's being pushed through a bouncy piece of metal, basically. So unsync, I'm going to do both at the same time. I'll jump between these two as well, so I'm just going to be jumping between them and changing things in each one. Now, the first one, we're going to put the delay up to, let's turn it to 40 milliseconds, and let's put this one to 50. And let's listen what it sounds like now. All right. Now, that is very dry and flat. Now, one thing about using this delay is that we don't have a reverb, but the first thing we can do to thicken it out, widen it out a bit, is put the ping pong on both sides. So let's turn both ping pongs on, and this is going to split your delay frequencies across your delay hits across both speakers. So already that's spread out. Still sounds very bitty and grainy. So the next thing I want to do is filter these slightly. Now, what I find is just nothing too drastic, but just a slight difference in the EQs. Yeah? So look at these. It's not much. One's got a bit more top, one's got a bit more bottom. That's it. So let's listen to how that sounds. And I want to, before I do that, I'm going to increase the feedback a little bit on each one. So let's put each one up to, let's put this one up to 75. Let's put this one up to 70. And what I find is the key with this is keeping all the values different, because your two springs, every time you send a snare through a spring, it's going to react a little bit differently because it's a live piece of metal that bounces. All right, so I want these to be, each spring to be different with the feedback, the time, just the filters, everything like that. I just want each one to be a little bit different to create this thick sort of delayed reverb sound. Okay, so that's all right, but it's still got, you can still hear that it's a delay. So I'm going to shorten, let's listen to the long, where's the 50 mil? So I'm going to do that one to 29. And this one to 35. And increase the feedback a bit more on that one. Put them together. Okay, so we're starting to get somewhere. Now, what I'm going to start doing now, I want to put a reverb on each one. So where's reverb? So the top one, reverb's on there. We're going to make this very small room. Quite a short decay. Because this reverb isn't going to be the main reverb. This one's just going to be like creating stopping the delay sounding like such a delay. So it stops the delay sounding like a very specific, and it'll be like, it'll be a bit looser sort of sounding. Not bad. Okay, that's good for that one. Let's put another one on the bottom one. And we're going to keep the size a little bit longer this time. Decay a little bit longer than the other one. Okay, not bad. That longer one is still too long. We need to be shorter. That one's 26. That one's 29. All right, we're getting there. Now, what I want to do now is put another reverb. What did I do with an echo? No, I know what I want to do. So we're going to get delay. So now, both separate delay channels are going... Both separate delay channels are going into one delay. All right, like that. And I'm going to do the same thing. Ping pong. Filter. We want with a wide filter on this one because this is the end delay, so we don't need to be changing that too much. The feedback's going to be a little bit longer. The sync off. And then this is going to end up being a little bit longer than the other ones. About 30, yep, there. Let's up the feedback here. All right. We're getting more towards that. It's a reverb, but it's a grainy, broken up reverb. All right. And now what I want to do is put one more reverb on. Oh, no, actually, I'll tell you what I wanted to do. I want to put a cabinet in there. Cabinet. Now, I'm going to put this cabinet in between the 2 delay channels and the single master delay. There. So the chain, like at the moment, 2 delay channels in the audio effect rack. I'm going to rename that springs. And then the 2 springs go into a cabinet. I'm going to pull the dry wet down a little bit on the cabinet. I'm going to put this up to a 4x12 box near on axis. And now all the cabinet does, it just takes away a bit of the top end. Cabinet's supposed to make it sound like a cabinet has been recorded using a microphone. That's the idea of it. So let's listen without. Very crisp. Let's put it on. Takes a little bit of that crispness away. Now let's put it fully wet. The crispness has gone again. All right, interesting. So there we go. Right. Now, this is kind of roughly where I wanted to take it to. So what I'll do, I'm going to expand this out, and I've got some different samples here. So I've got a rim sample, I've got a skank, like a horn skank, and I've got an organ. Now, the organ is just a sample loop, so it's a bit rough, but let's just see how this sounds on each of these. Okay, let's hear those horns without. Let's hear them dry. Yeah, and then let's hear them with. Not bad. I don't think that's too bad. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is try this. I'm going to change up my samples a little bit. Just briefly. I'm going to go into the Ableton samples and type in rim. Let's put a snarey rim in there. And let's put that one in as well. And then I just want to draw each one of these. Okay. So this spring's not sounding too bad so far, I don't think. Now, what I want to try and do now is add some effects and, not effects, but macro knobs, basically, so that we can automate and change the sound of these springs just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to click up this circle here, and this opens up my macros. Now, if you don't know what a macro is, it's basically one knob that can control multiple effects within your effect. All right. So what I want to do is go to my delay 1, spring 1. Let's rename these. Spring 1 and spring 2. All right, spring 1. We're going to right-click on the time. And we're going to go to macro 1. Okay. Now you'll see here the time has now been linked to the delay time on the spring, on spring 1, okay? So when I move this knob, it moves the delay time, and you'll notice it's moving it all the way up and down, so we need to adjust that, but we'll do that in a second. So we're going to go to delay 2, spring 2, sorry, do the same thing, right-click, map to L time. So now that's macro 1 has been changed to L time, we're going to map it to that. And that now means that both spring feedbacks are linked to that knob. Sorry, not the feedback, the time. Now, again, what we'll notice, let me put this on. We've just made a normal delay here. So we need to adjust this so that the springs are at different delay rates and they move at slightly different rates as well. So they're not just moving like this, but they're moving a little bit out of sync with each other. And the way I'm going to do that is by right-clicking on one of the delay time things. And then we're going to go to Edit Macro Map. Now, what this does is you can now edit the range of that macro knob. So here, let's put this to the minimum milliseconds that we want to use here is about 20. And we'll put this one to 19. Oh, I've gone too far. Let's do 18. And then let's do this one as 30 and this one as 28. Now, those slight differences mean that when you move this knob, it's going to change the frequencies. Why do I keep saying frequency? It's going to change the time of the delay time. It's going to change the delay time in uneven amounts to each other, if that makes sense. So the knob won't just move like that. There'll be a little bit out, which is what we want. So let's go. Let's just unmap. Oh, instead of doing right click, you can just click this mapper button here. Sweet. Now let's see what happens. Okay, let's edit this a bit more. We need to just increase these a little bit. All right. So now we've got a thing where we can change the sort of tension of the spring a little bit. So then somewhere in there you want to find exactly where you want it. Okay. Now what else did I do? Let me just try and remember. Okay, let's turn the filter up a little bit on each one of these. All right. Now, another thing we can do here, we've basically got the sound that I'm going to try and get. Now, all we need to do is tweak it to just make it better, basically. I'm going to put one more reverb. At the end here. And actually, what I'm going to do, I'll tell you what I might do, actually. I might take cabinet out because I don't know how many of you have cabinet. I don't know if it comes in every version of Ableton or not. So I'm going to put an EQ in instead. And let's see what this does. So what I do with this EQ is I just roll off a little bit of top, just a little bit of the top, just to take the really prangy frequencies out there. I'm going to take all the low end out, like so. And then we can use these and play around. Yeah. So that's similar. That's a way to sort of do what I'm trying to do without using cabinet. I'm trying to keep it so simple here. What else can we do to make this sound better? We've put a reverb at the end. Again, it wants to be small. Try a long decay. Now what I'm going to try is using it on a piano. Let's try this. Let's put the effector on. Turn the octave up. Let's try an actual piano. All right, yeah, that's not too bad, you know. Okay, so then I would say with this, play around with it. As I say in all my videos, sort of change your delay times, decay times, and things, all that kind of business. Mess around with, oh, let's take this off. Let's get rid of that filter in there. Yeah, we can take this off. Oh, let's try something like that maybe. So you get more of that metal reverberation kind of sound when you put the size down. Oh, is that frequency related? So something else, something else you could try and do to sort of make it more sound like a natural changing thing, reverb, whatever, is to get the LFO. No. I'm hoping you've got LFO. If you haven't, ignore this bit. And let's map it to the frequency of number 3 there. So we've got this frequency thing here. We're going to map to the frequency of control 3 on the EQ. Woo! Okay, so we need to calm that down. So let's reduce the rate. We want that real slow. I want it to be going really slow. And then we want the depth to not be as much. How far is it going to go? And we need to move this that way. On the LFO, I hope you've all got LFO. If you haven't, this video's gone way off track. But basically, you're setting the bottom and top limits with those percentages. So you're setting your bottom limit and your top limit. So right now, my bottom limit's at 31% of the whole range, and the top's at 100. So this is at the very top. This is moved in a little bit. You can see it's very slight movement. And let's just see where it goes to. You need to just play around with the depth and find out where it, just basically where that dot moves to is all you need to know. I want the bottom to be there, so we need the top to come in a bit. Okay, yeah, that's going to be it. Let's see what this sounds like. And let's up this a little bit to get rid of that metal. And let's try increasing the time. And let's try it on the piano. Woohoo! Let's try that time tiny. Nice. Let's try it massive. All right. I think that's it. I'm going to leave this one there. I'm not going to take that any further. Again, as I always say, experiment, play around with it. I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy trying to make some music who... I want to make the videos that I wish I had when I was making music. Or when I was making music when I was first starting out. You know what I mean. But yeah, that's it. Play around. And like I say, the idea of having 2 springs... I'm going to use the dirty one again. I created 2 springs. You can see there, spring 1 and spring 2. And then I've fed them out through more reverb and delay, basically. That's the long and short of what I've just done there. So by all means, check it out. My name's Bosh. This has been Bosh's Ableton Beginner Bits. And I'll see you next time. Ciao.